Hi and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us on the Capgemini Intelligent Industry stage here at Hannover Messe. We have a very exciting panel ready for you guys on this Tuesday. We're going to learn about digitalizing industrial operations. How can the industry address interoperability challenges at the edge? So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to hand over some of the moderating responsibilities to my colleague Nicolas Rousseau to come up here and introduce the rest of the team. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Hi, everyone. Real pleasure having you today on the Capgemini booth for this exciting announcement that we're making today. So let me, without waiting any second, introduce my colleagues over there. So starting with Roland Weiss from ABB, Christian Platzer from Schneider, Bart Nieuwborg from Rockwell, just for fun, Christoph Berlin from Microsoft. And Silvio Rasek from SIEMENS, and my Capgemini colleague, Shamik Mishra. Please have a seat.
Thank you.
So, everyone, again, a real great pleasure seeing as many of you today for this great announcement we've been working for quite some time on. And just to go straight to the point a little bit about all digitalization that we've all been hearing, okay, everywhere, I guess, around the different booths that we're seeing here. It's about digitalization, it's about manufacturing, but we all know that in real life, things are not as smooth as they appear to be on PowerPoints, as they appear to be in the design thinking, and that somehow we're facing on the ground challenges that are a bit overwhelming from time to time. So really, and not turning around the topic anymore, let's try and go straight to what are the key topics that I was mentioning about. And maybe, Christian, if you want to start a little bit about what are the challenges that we're seeing on the ground.
Sure. So I think we're in times of unprecedented challenges. We have knowledge scarcity that is faced by most of the companies in the world today. We're dealing with supply chain issues. We're dealing with more and more competitive pressure, asking companies to be more efficient. And last but not least, we're dealing about the carbon footprint, and trying to reduce our carbon footprint. And all of that requires, in order to attach it, that requires more and more AI on-premise, data on-premise, managing your data, having on-premise apps. And with that, you can solve those problems and you can address those problems. But you're getting a bunch of new problems then afterwards, because now you need to manage your edge. Now you need to manage devices and apps from different vendors. And every vendor is telling you that, oh, we have a great solution. And as a plant owner, you're dealing with 5 to 10 different management solutions. And dealing with that is difficult, and I think this is what we're here today.
Okay. And maybe Shamik on our end?
Yeah, sure. Is this working? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, one of the major challenges for system integrators or otherwise is that how do we bring an ecosystem together? And bringing an ecosystem together has always been a technology challenge rather than anything else. The fact that there is, and as Christian mentioned, that there is a shortage of certain skills in the context of, say, manufacturing or in the context of certain industries. But the world of application development, the applications which will drive industrial automation are becoming more and more web scale. So cloud-native technologies, whether it's the foundational stuff of AI, all of those stuff are happening elsewhere. And if we have to bring that in, then we have to perhaps reduce the barrier of innovation in industrial automation. And one of the things that's required is the ability for different equipment, different software, different applications in the shop floor to be able to talk together. And that has been a major challenge from whatever aspect we look at it. The second part is that we all want intelligent shop floors, intelligent manufacturing, we want intelligent processes, and this needs data, and this data has to be consumed by applications, and those applications, again, not necessarily will come from the traditional application providers, but it may come from a very large developer ecosystem that the world has today. But how does a developer actually make an application when he may have to maintain this application for each manufacturer separately because there is no common way of doing it? So a shop floor 1 may have a certain stack, a shop floor 2 may have another stack, and then making it work across them is a massive cost unless there is a common way to do stuff. These are the major challenges, and then of course the question of automation, question of observability, the question of how do we actually measure the performance across different devices, across different applications. So all of that together is perhaps one of the challenges that we have to solve in the next coming year or two.
Yeah, then thanks, Shamik. And then the big question is, can someone solve it alone? Can an end customer somehow on the factory, on the shop floor, solve it alone? Bart, your view.
Well, yeah, I think it's a very fair question. Can you address these challenges alone? I would say maybe, but I would say we as a group of founding members of Margo, we consider that solving it together is a way better approach.
You got it.
Solving it together, and we consider that solving it together in an open way will bring more benefits to the manufacturing, to the industries. And that's why we wanted to give our collaboration a name. It's Margo. Margo is an open source initiative. It's hosted under the Linux Foundation. And the initiative is focusing on interoperable orchestration of applications, workloads, and their hosting devices. And that through the full life cycle, I would say, the full life cycle of going from onboarding, provisioning, certainly the observability, as Shamik was mentioning, but even going through the update cycle and also not forgetting about the necessity to, from time to time, replace it. We believe that full-scale approach is going to deliver the value to the markets. And what can you expect from Margo? The Margo initiative is intending to deliver a few open source deliverables, if I might want to call it like that. First of all, a reference implementation to accelerate adoption. Then we're going to also work on a specification or standard to give adopters the freedom of choice of implementation while they stay compatible or compliant with the interoperability API layer. And to gain what I would call a collective trust in the interoperability promise, we are focusing to make, again, an open source compliance testing toolkit available so that as well users as adopters can, for themselves, verify, hey, does the interoperability works if the elements, the products, the components are coming from different vendors? Because the whole approach is here to solve that for, call it the heterogeneous fleets of applications, of devices, of workloads that are existing. What I would like also to call out is that by going with this approach, the open approach, we want to welcome anyone that feels valuable and wants to contribute to this, do this really in a collective approach. Now, people might think like, okay, well, how is this solution stack going to look like? Because we're talking here about software solutions, technologies. Are you going to reinvent the wheel? And our answer is clearly no. We want to leverage existing proven open source initiatives and their technology stacks, whether they're coming from the IT space, thinking about cloud-native principles for sure. But we want to take care about the focus area. As I mentioned, the focus is the edge. We want to find scalable solutions that work for the OT space, that work for manufacturing. That means we don't want to have the manufacturing space adapt to those technologies coming and maybe have proven their ability to solve problems in IT spaces. We want to adapt, and there's a value Margo wants to deliver, adapt those, call it OTify, if that would be a word, OTify them to make sure it fits the requirements of the manufacturing and the industry space. That I think is kind of key for us. People might ask, hey, but are there already other initiatives around standardization, interoperability? For sure. The digitalization space is rather large, a large topic to address. We see us as like fitting where there are currently still gaps. And then we see ourselves as like complementary into those existing initiatives already that might be focusing on other areas of the digitalization or the interoperability challenges in digitalization. So in a nutshell, I would say there are three pillars, three value pillars Margo wants to focus on. It is, first of all, being open. That's very close to our heart. Secondly, focus on simplicity. And then, last but not least, the whole scalability aspects. And with that...
yeah, so I guess it's now time to really double down a little bit on those three so that we can provide you a little bit of the insights about, beyond the intent and the work that has been done. And again, just to reinsist, this is an open forum, okay? So it's not meant to be closed, okay? But for everyone here to understand what's at stake, okay? So let us effectively double down a little bit on this. Let me start with the first, a little bit about the openness and the flexibility. Maybe Silvio, if you can pick up that one.
Sure. So first, as Bart addressed already, openness is key to the market initiative. And the purpose is to enable flexibility. And I would like to point out that from my perspective, it's twofold. So one is how this collaboration is being driven. So we have the Linux Foundation hosting the Joint Development Foundation. This gives us a framework that is really geared towards openness, and it is definitely geared towards driving open source. And this is how also Siemens is looking at the things this is why we decided to join, because the initiatives we are driving, Siemens Industrial Edge, Industrial Operations X, as part of Siemens Accelerator, this is perfectly in line with what Margo is driving. And yes, openness, flexibility. I just want to point out again what is the value we want to unleash as Margo for our customers. So what does it bring to producing companies in the end? It brings in the flexibility to pick and choose from the best vendors. And you could call it, in an extreme situation, a best-of-breed approach, which is nowadays, due to integration efforts, the time it takes to integrate the different solutions from different vendors, it's sometimes not efficient to pick and choose from the best vendors, since there's lots of hurdles to overcome due to the lack of flexibility. So that's my take on openness and flexibility.
Okay. And I like just picking up one of the words you have about the hurdles and how complex it might be. I guess this was the perfectly yet unplanned transition to you, Roland, about the simplification.
Absolutely.
So where do we want to go?
Thanks for that, and thanks Silvio for mentioning openness, flexibility. I think that's key, and Margo will really drive it forward. We as ABB, and that's the B&R team, that's the process automation teams in ABB, we really see like the pragmatic approach that Margo is taking. Bart, you talked about it. It's a reference implementation, it's a test suite, and then in the end it's a set of standard APIs. So this is where we see the simplification playing out very nicely. We should take a look at this from two angles, both from the vendor perspective as well as from the customer perspective. For us as vendors, being at applications, devices, the orchestration, we need to follow one set of APIs implemented, and then we are part of the ecosystem. For the customers, it's the same thing. It reduces a lot of risk because they can engage in this ecosystem, but they know it's supported by all these device vendors, by all these whoever provides applications, and it comes with an orchestration, so it really takes out the risk. So summarizing for the customer, it's a reduction of complexity in the solution, so plug and play between applications and devices. It's a simplification in terms of multi-vendor system integration, because your engineers just need to understand one set of APIs and then can work with this and integrate properly. And last not least, it's also a reduction of maintenance efforts, because with the orchestration layer, that is also, according to Margo, you can monitor, you can manage the devices, the applications in your system. So that's really coming together and providing great value for our customers. So looking at this, Margo as an open source project, we see it very good fit in the Linux Foundation, because as said, it's about providing a reference implementation, test suite, and this fast iteration, quick advancement, trying out things very quickly. I think this will make Margo a success. So concluding from our side, It's really not yet another initiative, it's a promise. It's a promise of a more connected, more adaptable, and simpler industrial automation ecosystem. Back to you.
Wonderful. And again, picking up one very interesting word, okay, that we've seen and heard a little bit about ambitions that we're having all in the OT space as well. Speed, okay, I guess, which is always quite a little bit of a challenge. So I guess, again, the perfect transition to you, Christoph, about Microsoft's view also on this, and how about innovation, how about growth, and how can we go there massively faster?
How do we get there massively faster? So I think we have spent a good time to talk about the things of how we want to approach Margo, how do we really want to solve these problems. So let's spend a few seconds on the why. Why do we have to do this? We, all of us, really believe that today it is easy to do the systems of ones, but it is very, very hard to do the systems of 1,000. Scale is simply a problem that we have day in, day out. It is super easy to run a proof of concept. It is super easy to innovate, to use AI, to do all of these things. But once it goes to this next stage, into the how do I scale into production? How do I manage the thousands of systems? How do I manage the thousands of systems across different vendors? There are things that get in the way that shouldn't get in the way. The way I very simply separate these two things is there is differentiating technology and there's non-differentiating technology. Differentiating technology is really about the aspect of how do I actually drive higher efficiency? How do I really go about producing better products? How do I produce more with less and all these things? The non-differentiating aspects is what is the orchestrator that I use for that? No one will sell more products because we use a custom orchestrator. It's really one of those things where pretty much we often, and I will actually declare fault ourselves, that we often use technology as an excuse to pretty much just come in to say, we are a little bit different to do these things. So we don't reach scale. What Margo is really focusing on is that we overcome this perception of that non-differentiating technology is so important that we get over this hump, that we align on the things that really have to be standardized, that we are creating a blueprint, that we are driving towards innovation of where it matters. Everyone using a different orchestrator, everyone having a slightly different definition of observability from earlier, honestly, there's no value to anyone. It is really just pain. Let's be super honest with that. And so at the end of the day, what really going for is really how can we standardize on the non-differentiating aspects in order to actually scale the differentiating aspects and IP for each company much more fast. And so if you really take, Microsoft talks about AI all the time. I'm pretty sure you've heard about it. It's like we talk about AI. How do you get there? How do you actually collect the data? How do you integrate the systems? How do you integrate heterogeneous systems? And this is really this consolidated effort from all of us to say, how do we actually get this element of non-differentiating technology under control in order to go to the next scale phase, in order to manage the systems of 1,000. And that is pretty much what our mission statement really is, because it is overdue, to be very honest with you.
Thank you for the highlights. Thanks, everyone, for the different views. So I believe, and again, we've been here scratching the surface, and we'll open up for some question in the audience right after. But I hope you now understand a little bit what was behind this great initiative that was initiated some time back already. A lot of hard work, and I want to really thank everyone here and their teams for really the work that's been done. And somehow, maybe just to closing remark a little bit to you about, again, what would be the next step?
Well, the next step, let's face it as it is. When Margo initiative was founded by the founding members, the ABB group, including B&R, Capgemini, Microsoft, Rockwell Automation, Schneider Electric, including Aviva, and Siemens, we did last week the announcement going public. And we did actually quite quickly got endorsements already from Beckhoff, from Dianomic, from Accenture, also from Intel and from Zedida. And what does mean endorsement? Because a word can say a lot and nothing. These companies kind of immediately felt strongly aligned, willing to contribute, and participate in Margo. They started evaluating immediately their level of engagement. And as of today, I can already announce that 2 of those parties, Intel and Zedata, took already the decision and the commitment and the engagement. It's a done deal to join Margo. So they're going to join Margo as a steering member, another steering member, besides the 6 of us. So I would say welcome Zedata, welcome Intel. And to close out with that, who else can join? Well, if you feel inspired, anyone can join. If you want to join us on this journey, welcome. Join Margo, I would say.
Thank you, Bart. And again, a warm thank you for everyone here for making this happen. Okay, I guess a year ago wasn't that obvious when we all first met, but I guess this is a great achievement today to overcome all our, let's say, intensive yet very interesting conversations that we had. So we wanted on purpose to keep some space for the broad audience here. If some people of you and some persons of you would have some questions here, I guess we would be really eager to really provide the answers to those. Anthony, if you would have the mic.
Very good session. What is the difference between Ajax Foundry and Margo initiative?
I can answer that. So Ajax Foundry is more on the data plane, more on connecting the data, whereas we in Margo, we try to do the infrastructure on which the apps that do the data piping will work. And this is, I think, a very important thing regarding all existing standards. I mean, we didn't want to reinvent the wheel, like it was said before. So we really want to leverage existing standards where they exist. We don't see the value in competing with any standard or any open source project that already exists. But we saw a need here in this niche that nobody was properly addressing yet, in how to make the infrastructure, how to manage the edge compute devices, the fleet management, the app management, the app deployment, the app orchestration. That we felt is a space that is very much needed because there are a lot of proprietary solutions and there are a lot of open source building blocks, but there is no overarching standard how to connect these building blocks. And that would then also benefit deployment of, for example, Ajax Foundry.
Okay. You have enough?
Thank you. Great session. I would like to know concretely what will the stack look like and what is the first challenge you're proposing to address?
Okay. Could I take it?
Yeah. Bart, okay. You go ahead.
Well, it's a good point. Sharing with all of us, github.com/Margo will be populated in the coming days. It's in the process now with first repositories of a proposed draft system design. There will be coming soon also the first repositories with our reference implementation. And to your question, what is our proposed priority to focus on at the first level? We see value to address what we call the application developer journey first, meaning I would say the aspiration of a developer or a company building applications and workloads to build once, deploy many, with the least of effort necessary for the versatility that he will encounter when getting his solution to the market, meaning trying to get through a packaging definition of his application, making sure he can do that once, make it available, and regardless the, call it ecosystem or the fleet that he wants to integrate with, reducing significantly any customization effort, if that's the right word, that he would have to go through today, as there is no harmonization on that.
And
thank you.
I would like to add one thing to this, because the key challenge is not only about the content, it's also about really delivering, and I want to emphasize this, what Bart said, it's about delivering commercial offerings and making it available. And this is the feedbacks we got from first customers we tested the concept with, that they really are eager to use the outcomes and not just to spend lots of time in defining and really bringing quickly to the market. Yeah.
I'd like to build even more on that. I think I see the challenge. We see it on the slides. The challenge is now to build really a rich partner system where all companies are coming in, and we are looking to all of you to join Margo, because only if we have enough people, enough companies believing in this, then this will become a success. So it's a non-technical challenge, but I think that's really the boundary we need to kind of overcome.
Right, and I think that to add to that, really our first challenge is to build a broad as possible consensus. So we intentionally don't go to market today to go public by saying, hey, this is what these 6 companies picked and selected and decided. No, we want to open a discussion. We want everyone in the world who believes in open ecosystems and interoperability to join this discussion and figure out what is really the thing that works for a very broad consensus of the market, that everybody can make their systems compatible to these standards so that everybody will be interoperable in the future.
I applaud your openness on this. So 2 questions on open source protocol initiatives. Is one, in some industries, is security concerns with open source. The other is, are you familiar with a DMP3 WITS, which started out as a similar ideal of interoperability? How would you contrast to what you're proposing, what Margo is proposing to be?
So I will take the first security question, then I hand it off to someone else. There is a myth that when you keep code proprietary and when you keep it locked up and when you keep it very close to your chest, that it is secure. I think we have proven a long time ago that this is a fool's tale. It's the same as, and me coming in from the IT guy perspective here, is the same as I tell all of the OT guys that disconnected networks are secure, that air gap is secure. They're not. It is a belief that you have they are secure, and it's the same as with pretty much the approach of code. What it will do is it will raise the right questions. It will actually raise the right questions with regards to the implementation detail, also the SDL process, and all these aspects. But it is we have all used the word open. There's another word for it. It is transparent. And transparent, which is very similar, but it really provides the visibility into this is how we think about it. How do we really build on top of it? Margo itself will not redefine the security standard. Actually, what is the security standard? There are many of those, but it is a peer effort to come in and say, how do we actually secure this? How do we think about it? What is the value driver in all of those? And you can only do this in open source because otherwise we are back to the 90s, and we all know that this hasn't worked.
Yeah, just to add to what he says, more transparent ecosystems actually have more eyes to look into the code. And that actually makes it secure. And it's long proven that open source actually has a much more resilient ecosystem as compared to closed source. Because closed source, nobody knows what's there really. Here, people can actually identify and say there are weaknesses in the standard. They have an open mechanism of providing feedback. And we are able to adapt much faster because there is a consensus-based system here. So to echo what Christoph just said, I don't think we are going to write a security standard, but we will be following the best practices, and people will identify more and more possible weaknesses in the system as we go forward. But I forgot your second question, by the way.
Contrasting this initiative to DMP3 WITS, which was started over a decade ago to have interoperability in the UK water industry standard, of the ability to plug and play hardware from different vendors. And some of you support that. So I'm just wondering, I know this is more edge devices but I just wanted to hear your opinion on that.
I'm not so sure. The example you gave, I'm aware of it. But in general, I can talk about plug and play. So plug and play is the ideal world. You just, like your home Wi-Fi router, you just set it up and it works, right? I don't think we would reach there anytime soon. Yes, that's the dream. You bring 2 different devices from 2 different vendors, you switch it on, they start talking to each other. Wonderful. But I don't think that's the purpose itself. The purpose itself is that we should be able to create use cases that is able to run on 2 different devices and in the same way, with the same configuration, with the same concepts. So if I'm an application developer and I have built an application which runs on, say, a Schneider device, and I have to maintain a complete different application because the ABB device runs a completely different stack, then that's a problem for application developers. You have to maintain many software. So the plug-and-play aspect should be more on how the applications are able to run on devices, how orchestration is possible, how the overall ecosystem we can reduce the entry barrier for application developers and possibly even generate more innovation. So maybe there are use cases which are not there today, which somebody else will think once they know, okay, this is the common way of doing things.
Yeah. And maybe one thing to add to that, why I believe that the approach that we are taking here with an open source project where the founding members and others can contribute, we want to iterate quickly, right? We don't want to have a standardization first approach. We want to evolve the standards, the APIs we are developing together with a reference implementation, with customers, with other vendors, etc., to really make it solid and iterate fast. So that's also one important ingredient to make this initiative a success.
Thank you guys very much. Very exciting news. Luckily, they'll be easy to spot, and they'll be around the booth later on. So if there are some additional questions, feel free to grab their attention at that point. Okay. But really, thank you all for coming here today. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time.
Thanks a lot.
Great opportunity.
No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.